Hiya. So now you would have probably, hopefully read the case study, and you'll be planning your case study report. And this video is to help you to structure that report and also think about some of the strategies you might use to write it, and also perhaps some of the analysis that you might use, and the strategic recommendations you might have. Although I can't help you too much with that, hopefully this will get you thinking a bit, and also help you to structure your report mostly. So we'll begin with the task itself. Now you notice that you need to read the report very carefully, and then write sorry, you need to read the case study very carefully, and then write a report using those four headings. Now it's important to use these headings exactly as they are. Now these are called moves. Really, you've got the problem first. So what is the problem? Analyzing the data, and then thinking about alternative solutions and making recommendations. Each one of those is a move, and you also need to be using some theory in order to help you to justify those recommendations that you make. So although it does say here you should be conducting some background reading on relevant models, theories, or concept that might help you to make recommendations which are valid, and I'll show you some of those possibilities a bit later. Now remember that you'll need to be using a cover sheet. Now a cover sheet is just like this, so you remember that needs to be downloaded from WebCT and filled in with your details as well. So don't forget to do that. Make sure that your work is in Arial font 10 with lines facing 1.5, and when that's been done, and you need to follow all of the information which is here and the submission guidelines, it should not be more than 4 pages of A4, excluding the cover page and reference list. Remember that if you're referencing, now if you're using any theories or concepts that you've found from another place, remember that you need to keep a track of those, keep a record of those using the Harvard referencing system, and that's important to use, and I guess we'll show you how to do that a bit later. So remember also when you're saving your work that you should use the right kind of the right format for the file name. Now I started writing it. This is a Word document, and I think this is how you should start off. So you've got numbered headings 1, 2, 3, and 4, and each one of those headings is the move. So firstly, problem statement, analysis of data, alternative solutions, and recommendations. So begin with that, and then start filling in your information using each one of those under each one of those headings. Now, how do we mark it? Now on the right here, these are the low marks. The marks you don't want, and on the right here these are the good marks, the ones that you do want. Now the content first needs to be relevant to the assignment, and also this is the marking criteria for the case study report. So you need to accurately identify all the key problems. Think about all the key problems in the case. What problems are there, and how might you solve those problems? Analysis, looking into depth about how you might solve those things by perhaps looking at the cause and effect, and how the theories might explain what recommendations you might make and what strategies you might follow, marketing strategies, financial strategies, what business tools you might use, what analytical tools or frameworks have been applied. So can you skillfully apply those analytical frameworks to provide logical and suitable solutions? These are things that you need to be thinking about. Are those recommendations specific, feasible, and effective, linking logically to the problem statement and analysis? Do those recommendations make sense? Are they logical? The language that you're using needs to be coherent, well organized, and using a wide variety of devices. Academic in its style, using less common vocabulary effectively and appropriately. So if errors are present, they need to be so only very rare kind of errors. So most of the time your work needs to be error free. You need to be using the right conventions of the genre, the style, register, and format. That means report structure, so it needs to be followed very carefully. Remember that the cover sheet needs to be completed. Now, I showed you this before. This is an example of a report which I wrote, and you can see that it follows the format which a report should. That it is quite academic in its style. It's fact-based. It follows a numbered heading order, which it should, like that. Part 2, focus on the economy. It's focusing on different parts. So one section here deals with one topic, one subject. It does have a graph. An essay would not have a graph, for example, whereas this does have a graph. Also, this is the end of the report which I wrote, and it has conclusions and recommendations. So another feature of a report is not only does it conclude and summarize the information that was in the report itself, but it also then makes recommendations. It may then justify those recommendations and say why those recommendations are valid. So it's important that you make recommendations but also justify them. This is another example of a report which is on the Poland mining industry, and it's a business environment SWOT. You may use a SWOT analysis in this report. It's possible, looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats for that company. So this is an example of a SWOT analysis done on for a real business in a real report. Now, the University of Reading put together this comparison of what an essay and report contains. On the left you can see that the essay is argumentative and idea-based, has no tables or graphs, and offers a conclusion about a question. It does not usually include subheadings. On the right you'll see that the reports are different, so it's informative and fact-based, formally structured, and has tables or graphs, and at the end offers a recommendation for action. So it's quite a different type of piece of work. It's different. An essay is about arguments and conclusions about a question, and a report is facts and information. It's formal, has a formal style, and makes recommendations based on that factual information. So they're different genres. This is an example of an academic report, and it shows you that there's a section on problems followed by solutions. So the language here which is used to talk about problems, you can see that all of this language here, you could use similar language when you're writing your report, and then secondly there's different language used for solutions. So think about what kind of language is being used for, firstly, to describe the cause and effect of the problem, and secondly the possibility of how useful your solutions might be. Now if you look at Flax, and I'll show you how to use Flax if we've got time. This is a corpus linguistics tool, and I've used the word problem to see where the word problem is used within the text, and you can see that problem is often used like this: the problem of, the problem with, the second problem faced, and you can see how it's used here in a sentence. So our major problem with acquisition is the. You could use a structure a little bit like this in your essay when you're talking about problems. Also with causes, solutions, difficulties, any other word, you might use a corpus linguistics tool to help you to structure your sentences. Now, I talked before about moves, and this is the result of some research which was done by the University of Birmingham about the moves within a case study report. So the case study report has a problem. In your report you'll be writing problem, analysis, solutions, recommendations. The moves which are described in this research are the situation, alternatives and options, advice, and summary and consolidation. So move 1, move 2, move 3, move 4. Very much the same. Orientation describes the topic. Now it's the same as these 4 moves. Now within these 4 moves, Nathan 2010 noticed these structures being used within a case study report. So firstly, the orientation, where you've got the introduction, the objectives and the assumptions, and then the problem itself, where the problem might be stated and the analysis of that data might be done by using these business tools. So that's where the situation analysis is. We've got SWOT, Porter's 5 forces, pest analysis, competitor analysis. They're all part of the analysis of data. Yeah, so we've got a problem for the company. You should state that, and then the analysis of the data for that company using these tools. Not all of them. You might select the ones which are useful for you. Then you would suggest some possible options and alternatives there, and also when you're making advice you might use so alternative solutions and recommendations. You might be using strategic or marketing recommendations and suggest how these things might be implemented, followed by a conclusion and some references at the end there. Okay, so you can see basic moves here and more complex moves and tools there. Now Nathan 2010 identified how these are actually used in real reports. So here's the real report on the right side and the moves which are suggested here, where first of all you're identifying the problem, analysing the possible tools, evaluating those solutions and suggesting and reflecting on what then might happen as a result. There's another example there where the writer is presenting evaluation information about that option. So the writer suggests a possible option using the theory and then evaluates that that recommendation. So you can go a little bit further if you like. Now the kind of language that is being used, now I know that this table looks very complicated, but don't worry about that. What you need to look at is the words on the left side here. So there are two different types of words being used when we're firstly analysing a situation and secondly making recommendations, and they are hedging language and boosting language. So on the left side you've got hedging words like appear, indicate, likely, maybe, perhaps, possible, probable, those kind of words, and boosters which emphasize the strength of what you think. If you're certain, if it's clear, if it's definite, if it's obvious, if there's no doubt about it, if it's of course it's true, then you can use boosters. Now these are native speakers and these are non-native speakers. Now research by Nathan showed that native speakers are using more of these words than non-native speakers. So possible, likely, and non-native speakers are using more suggest and was it general. So different types of different words being used by natives and non-natives there. Now I looked at the UEFAP website, and on the UEFAP website you've got these different words which you can be using to express certainty in hedging. So if you're uncertain about something, you might use these words like believe, assume, suggest. Also modal words, modal verbs like will, must, would, may, might, could, certainly, definitely. All of these words here, take note of those. You may be using those in your case study report. Firstly, to analyze the situation, to make possible suggestions and to evaluate those alternatives. You'll be using hedging language. Also these possible words to express your position, that is your point of view. So if you claim, if it's important, modal verbs, if you're certain about something you'd say certainly, definitely. Those words can be used. Now if we return to the task, if we look at the task again, you've got not only these headings here, but it also says that you should be conducting some background reading on relevant theories or models or concepts that may help you on each of those sections. So I'm guessing that it's in the analysis of data part that you'll be needing to use these models, and secondly in the alternative solutions you'll be needing to justify your solutions by using other theories. So we've got, I'll go through a few possible theories. I can't indicate to you whether these will be useful in this case study or not. You have to make that decision for yourself. First one is the SWOT analysis. Most people will be using the SWOT analysis, and it's been found in business reports. For example, the one I showed you at the beginning, it identifies the strengths, weaknesses and opportunities and threats for a business. If you remember this guy, what's his name? This is not Harry Potter, this is Michael Porter, and Michael Porter is an expert on business strategy, and he recommended a few models that you may be using to analyze this case and other cases in future. Lots of very useful tools for strategy. So the first one, Porter's 5 forces. You have these competitive rivalry going on inside or within that one business, threat of new entry, buyer power, threat of substitution and supplier power. It's possible you could use that model. Also there's the pestle model, so we've got long pestle, not only pestle but also local, national and global influences on that business. It's possible you could look into that, as well as demographic changes, and I think there's a possibility for ethical and socio-cultural effects on that business. Porter's generic strategies: when you're recommending strategies for a business, you may use one of these: cost leadership differentiation, or focus differentiation. You can use one of those from Michael Porter. Also, Porter wrote this model of the value chain. You may look at the value chain and think that there can be some improvements made for that business. Also, if you're talking about a marketing strategy, you can use the 7 P's of marketing to recommend a new marketing strategy of some kind. Also, the Ansoff matrix, where you could possibly recommend that the company goes for market penetration, diversification, or product development. That's a possibility. You've got the Boston matrix for analyzing the current situation of the product. So, is the product currently a cash cow, or is it a dog at this moment? Now, remember that any time that you use any of these theories, you should make sure that you have referenced them accurately and correctly, and so you can't reference my presentation, for example, for where you found this information, but it's important that you find them in a reliable, reputable place and reference them in the Harvard style. If you're not sure how to do Harvard style, then ask me about it, and I'll show you how to do that. So, thanks very much for listening. If you did watch all the way to the end of the video, I'm very impressed. If you have any more questions about it, please do let me know, either in class, or you can comment on this video, or you can leave me a comment on Twitter, or obviously send me an email as well. If you have any questions or any criticisms or feedback, please do let me know, and I'll see you in class on Monday.